Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level gaming. Second level.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to Codename Morpheus, episode 10. And here we're going to talk about the world of the virtual for the last week, and then also a little bit of this week as well, and leave you set for next week when we'll have another episode. So my name is Tom, and I'm here to be your host today, and this is Keegan, my co-host. We're going to talk about some VR. Like that?
Ver?
Yeah, I'm just abbreviating it now to VR.
You're not cool enough to abbreviate things.
I'm not yet.
You're not one of the kids, Tom, that eventually just not gonna have any. I feel at some point we're not gonna have any vowels in our wording.
Yeah, why not?
It's all just gonna be no
English
vowels.
people drop vowels all the time, or they make them up in the middle of words.
Or they add them like colors, and flavor, or they put ERs backwards.
That's true.
I got made fun of the other day because I spelled center RE, even though it's not RE apparently in America.
That's how I spell it.
I know, because you're English. Because we're right.
Yeah, we're good at my books, lad.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump right
about
into
VR.
With the new games. And this week there's two, but there's one huge one and then one sort of medium one. So they're pretty decent to look at. And the first one is going to be a game called The Solace Project. Or is it Solace or Solace?
I would say Solace.
I feel like Solace is the right way to say it, just based on the spelling of it. But the Solace Project is a pretty big endeavor. It is, as far as I understand it, completely move-controlled. But it's move controlled in the same way that Paranormal Activity is. So it's not teleportation necessarily. It is kind of like, you know, using this button and this button to go left and right, and kind of, if they do it as well as Paranormal Activity did, I won't be as mad about it. But of course,
time will tell.
Still waiting on their move 2s. But yeah, it looks really cool. Graphically, it looks very impressive. The world that they've built looks very impressive. A lot of people have said that they are supremely impressed so far in general.
This should be a spotlight next week, right?
We were lucky enough to get a code from the developers. They're late from release, but still we're grateful, and we're gonna. We
got it literally the morning we're recording, so that's why we haven't had time to play it.
I haven't had time to play it, but yeah, it looks great, man. It looks really, really cool, and everything I've seen so far on r/PSVR and elsewhere has been super, super positive for it. So I'm excited to give.
How much is that game, Tom?
That game is 20 whole buckaroos to buy.
That is $.
It doesn't seem to be a discount on it on week of release, which is odd because a lot of games I feel like have
a lot of VR does.
Yeah, that's true. So then after that, there's another spacey game, but this one's slightly different, and this is called End Space. This one does have a discount. It is it's 18 down from 20, so not exactly
so full price is 20.
Shattering discount, but
this just my argument every week. If we have too many space games, this is continuing that argument.
Another space game, and also me and you did a little bit of research into this before we talked about it, and it does appear on the gear,
so it might be a port.
Yeah, which made us a little hesitant. Now, all the footage we've seen of the PSVR version looks like they redid it from what they had as an experience on the gear to obviously cater to the higher end technology. But
I just whacked my head on the microphone. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay. So those are the two big ones this week: Solace Project and End Space. And we're excited to dig into at least one of those two. And I might give Solace Project
you mean End Space?
Yeah, the other one, End Space, a whirl.
Solace Project. I watched the trailer and it looked interesting. I feel like me in VR, there's nothing that has excited me in VR recently.
Not yet.
Which is sad because I want to be excited. And then everything that I hear about Skyrim VR
you liked the Lost Bear though, didn't you?
It was all right. I mean, there's nothing that's got me super hyped.
Gotcha.
And Skyrim is like the next big game, but even then, the more and more I hear about it, the more and more people are like, ooh, I'm careful.
I am leaving that one the fuck alone until it actually appears, because I feel like that's something that that has enough time for tweaks. It has enough time for criticism to be made and to be applied. And I think a lot of people are putting their personal opinion on it without necessarily imagining the core market and whether they would enjoy it or not.
We'll see.
I think we'll see. Time will tell.
I mean, right now, like I said, there's nothing really excited for me in VR.
That's fair.
But PSX is happening in December. Hopefully they announce some stuff there.
I do have some good news as far as VR goes.
There's also the Tokyo Game Show going on.
So yeah, Solace Project and End Space. And then an actual sale, and pretty much the only actual sale this week that we saw for PSVR. Again, remember, we record early on a Tuesday, so we basically hit the store, see what the new deals are, and we write them down. Sometimes we miss them, and when we miss them, we try and correct that. But as of this recording moment, the only thing that's on sale is Batman Arkham VR, which is no poor game to be on sale.
No,
it's a good one.
Yeah, it was a good one to start with. I think things have... have changed since then. I wish the more and more I look back on the game, the more and more I wish it was longer. But it's a great experience for what it is.
It is a great experience. The ending is phenomenal. They could have done more with it, but who's to say they're not working on a sequel or something? But that is, if you have PS Plus, it's $14. If you don't have PS Plus, it's still $16. And if it was to be full price, it would be $20. So right now, if you've never played that, $14 is probably one of the better prices you're going to get on it. It's part of the Batman Day sale or something, but it's going on for a week, so you can pick.
I'm trying to make sure there wasn't anything that happened last second here for us.
Oh, you go ahead.
While you're doing that.
I am going to dig into the start of the news, if that's okay.
Yep.
So, let's talk news. We were very lucky that last night, in fact, PlayStation had a very large event, and it was the Tokyo Game Show. And of course, the Tokyo Game Show, they had a few announcements. Some of those were VR related, so we're going to dig into a couple of those guys right now. The first is that the... What's up?
Well, I was going to say, we should preface that we don't know if these are coming to America. They might be only Japan.
That is true. They might be Japan only, but if you are a smart boy, then you would have already made all those foreign accounts by now, and you would have access to them anyway.
If not, we have a playlist that you can do.
We do. So Zone of the Enders, the second runner, is going to get remastered with full VR support. This is a Konami game that was made in the era of Kojima. Kojima had a hand in this game, so it is interesting, to say the least. When you watch the trailer for it, you can see how the VR works specifically. I'm a little confused as to how it works in the 3D space, because they have a lot of first-person narrative where like it makes perfect sense to be in VR, and then they have a lot of like watching your mech thing fight, and I'm like, how does that work in VR?
Unless it's just like a god mode and you're just looking at it.
Yeah, unless it's like a separate thing. I don't know. But it looks really cool, and anything from Kojima is usually worth checking out. Those of you that had a PS2, I want to say, will probably remember this game anyway. But yeah, Zone of the Enders, the second runner, is getting remastered with full VR support. And then they have the Japan VR Music Festival, which excites the crap out of me. I just love the idea that they're utilizing VR for something more than gaming, which, as you know, I'm a fan of. So during TGS here, they announced that there's going to be an upcoming VR experience which features various franchises from Sony Japan Studio, including Gravity Rush and Toro, and it's going to be released in Japan on September 20th, which is what, tomorrow? Yeah. Tomorrow time of recording, but a little while ago if you're watching this. So that's a pretty big one. Now, as to what the hell that looks like, don't ask me. I have no idea.
There's no trailer that we saw anywhere.
No trailer. It's bare minimal information, but it basically looks like some kind of a weird music thing that has characters from Sony Japan Studios. So, it can't be too terrible.
As long as it's not Wii Music, we're good.
True. And then lastly, coming out of TGS on the PlayStation...
Probably the coolest thing coming out of TGS.
One of the coolest things is Neko Atsume Cat Collecting Sim is coming to PSVR. That's right, Neko Atsume Cat Collecting Sim. Is Neko like Japanese for cat? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I feel like I've seen it
before.
All
I know is that if you're a crazy cat person, we got a game for you.
So the game allows you to leave food for cats who will come to your home and leave you presents. It features cartoon-style art
poops?
And I don't know, and various special cat themes after baseball players, police officers, butlers, ninjas, and many more. And there is also a live-action movie of Neko Atsume, which is due out on DVD and Blu-ray in Japan next month. So
thanks, Japan.
It's a VR experience for what apparently is already an existing franchise. But those are the big three pieces of news for VR outside of TGS. So again, we're not in the like super awesome realm yet, but we're all expecting PSX to be the place for the big news.
Hopefully.
But still, they're all nice. They're nice, I think. I like they're remaking old games for VR. That's kind of a cool thing. I love the music festival idea. I would love to see a better implementation of
Foo Fighters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, why can't they like make like a VR based festival with like an actual like Riot Fest or whatever, like Lollapalooza or whatever, and just do the whole thing in VR and allow you to just pay like $15.
So they couldn't do it live. It'd have to be pre-recorded.
Oh, it would have to be pre-recorded.
Yeah, because you couldn't do it live.
Because
to get it live, you have a lot of factors going involved to make it function.
But you could be on stage. Oh man, that'd be cool.
You could imagine for a second that concept. We're watching Guns N' Roses.
Yeah,
a really great band. As you do.
Yeah.
Slash will never do this, but imagine having a camera in that hat, and you are Slash.
You are Slash.
You are Slash.
That would be kind of cool. I don't think he would ruin the hat for it, but maybe they could buy him a special hat.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe. I mean, let's be honest. It's just a wig. At this point, that's the rumor.
Get to see
no hair.
the ensuing riot after Axel leaves early because something bad.
Yeah,
it'd be really intense.
But it'd be cool. Like my first thought was having strapped to a drummer because I'm a drummer, having that back there. But that'd make you sick because you wouldn't move with. He'd be moving on his own.
Well, I really liked, and I would highly recommend it to anyone that does have a UK account. The virtual orchestra experience was wonderful. They did a bit of documentary stuff, which is always nice in VR, and then they had you actually like sat almost directly in front of the conductor with the entirety of the orchestra around you. So you're just kind of staring at the conductor, which is, for me, was fascinating because I've always had like kind of this weird thing about conductors and like, how is it that you do what you do? How do they know what these motions mean? Like, I don't understand conducting.
You didn't grow up in a music family. I knew that. I grew up with that in my blood.
Yeah, but I just like, so I was staring at this guy and I was kind of like seeing how he's flowing and everything and looking around at the different areas. And I actually was like brought close to tears doing it because it was such a beautiful experience to be right there in front of the conductor. So, with that being said, there's some shitty news outside of TGS, and it has been 100% officially confirmed. Criterion confirmed this, that there will be no VR in Battlefront 2.
We can finally lay this thing to rest.
Yeah, we finally laid it to rest. It was on again, off again, on again, off again. There was pictures that said VR mode needed or whatever and all that kind of shit. But there was an interview with metro.co.uk, which is actually like a free paper that they give out on the public transportation back home. And I don't know if I can find the exact quote because it was like a giant interview. But basically the guy said, VR is just too much. Like, it took them so much effort to make that X-Wing thing that they're just like, no, I don't think we're going to do that.
And they're not getting their money returned.
And they're not really getting money for it. That's right. I mean, here you go.
That's the... Oh, I'll let you read your quote.
I think I almost have it here.
Oh. I was going to say, because the big thing I've read recently, I don't know if you haven't, I've not checked ahead to see if I'm going to spoil anything here, so I'm going to check and make sure I'm not spoiling anything. But did you hear that I Expect You to Die?
Oh, yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Don't go there. That's part of it.
Okay, I will tell something about that later on.
So GC asked, the other obvious question I have is whether there are any VR options in the game, and the Criterion guy said, hesitantly, I might add, there is no VR. GC said nothing at all, but you were doing so well. The other guy laughed and said it's taken enough effort to make that. VR for Criterion is something that's very important. Said you must have learned so much doing that, it'd be a crime to let it go to waste. Well, it doesn't. You don't forget it. I think, as Andrew Wilson, as the EA CEO, was saying a few months back, VR is going to be part of gaming's future in the coming decade. The magazine came back and said, oh, don't give me all of that. And they laughed. And then he said, it's a particular shame because first-person mode with the Starfighter is still useless. And they said, at some point we could sit down and spend a good number of hours talking about where VR needs to get in order to work with that. Because in something like this, you're doing the job of a fighter pilot. And in the real world, that has significant psychological effects on you, or physiological effects on you, which would dramatically limit the audience. Matt mentioned at the start how the handling doesn't feel the same as in VR, and that's because they're completely different beasts. But making the VR demo absolutely informed the work we're doing now, so there's a lot of the VR mission soul in Starfighter Assault. And then that's pretty much all there is about it. But you can read that entire thing in the description below. But that's that's a no, right? That's like there's no beating around a bush there. There's not.
That's maybe. A no. It's not going to be Battlefront 2, but it's a maybe we will have something and something else. But I don't know. Doesn't surprise me.
Makes me
I've always said from a business perspective right now, I don't think VR makes sense.
Well, here's the thing, though, and whilst I agree with that, like
you have to make money.
The excuse they're using of like, oh, it's too hard to implement. No, it's not. It's not too hard. No, I do know, because there's a million games out there now that are doing the Starfighter thing in VR perfectly.
I wouldn't say it's
Arena,
perfect.
Eve, well enough. Starblood Arena does it really well. You have Eve that does it really well. There's plenty of other ones.
But what he's saying, so like somebody like me with Eve, and you know our buddy Nate's the same way, is we got second that game real quick. What he's saying is you have such a small audience with what they did the first time around. Because I got nauseous at the end of the X-Wing
you make
fight.
It, with everything, you make it an option. It's like you don't have to do it, but if you want to do it, have this.
But if it's an option, then you're putting resources into something you may not get the return on investment. That's what I'm saying. That's where it comes in.
I feel like they would get the return from the VR users. They would more likely
I don't think
to pick
they will.
up the game, but I don't know.
I don't think they will.
It depends.
I think the VR base is so small when Star Wars is such a big franchise. I think if it was a non-Star Wars franchise, it would make more sense. But the fact that Star Wars is as big as it is, it doesn't make any sense.
You think they were better off doing a standalone thing, like just a whole other game?
I think they're honestly probably not going to do a Star Wars themed one.
It has to be something. There's gonna be some Star Wars VR at some point. I mean, the way they're hinting at it, they're basically saying we learned a lot, but we still think it needs to go further.
Stuff's not ready yet.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so there's your sort of sad piece of news. But here's your happy piece of news. Creators of Special Forces VR, which is a pretty cool looking new VR game, hint that Sony sent them a special something that they can't talk about. So there was a post here from VR Vizio Games, and it says, "Huge thank you to Sony for sending us those. Well, we can't really say what it is, but can you guess, guys? Feeling excited." So it looks like for a game that is, and in the picture, you can't see. You can just see him with a controller.
Yeah.
But because obviously that would give it away. But he's basically saying that Sony gave them something specific to test with Special Forces VR. I'm assuming it's Move 2s. Because
I'm not.
I think a lot of those guys are getting them now because they want it to be inbuilt. I mean, I could see it as being AIM maybe, but like that's already out there. That seems like you would get that in a dev kit anyway. But like when they say we can't say what it is, then what else would it be?
I mean, there could be lots of things. It could be it could be some new piece of hardware that's not Move 2, but it's maybe a handgun version of the AIM or something like that. There may be some other things that can go on there. So
you're not convinced?
No, I'm not convinced. The reason I'm not convinced is A, they tagged Sony in this post. And if Sony really wanted to surprise people, they would not allow something like this to happen. So that's where I'm like, if there's really an agreement and Sony sent them something, unless there's been some backlash that has happened since then, Sony wouldn't say anything about it. And it always drives me crazy when these developers come out and say, hey, we got this thing, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe it until I see it.
Okay.
Just because of where it's at. And Move 2, I think, as much as I want them to happen, and I think they potentially will happen at some point, I think right now they're not happening, which sucks. I think this is something else that is could be. I mean, he could have gotten PS4 Pros. Who knows? He could have gotten multiple headsets. Who knows?
Yeah, but then they'd be allowed to talk about it. Would be my thought.
I mean, unless there's something special about them. I mean, special editions, whatever it may be.
All right, Mr. Negative. We'll see.
I'm just saying. I want Move 2s to happen as much as everybody else.
So you don't think this
but I feel like this is all fake hype. I mean, there's something obviously exciting here.
Well, if Special Forces VR comes out and it has Move 2 inclusion, we'll know if we were right or wrong.
Yeah. When does Special Forces VR supposed to come out?
I can't remember. Sometime this year, I think.
That's the thing, because I mean, I don't know.
It looks great. It looks really, really cool. So moving on.
I was gonna say one more thing with this picture.
He's a happy-looking guy,
but he's looking up at the screen. Like, there's no hint of what. Like, why would you accompany this post with the picture?
I don't know.
The picture has no
because you can't put the thing in the image because that would be breaking.
No, but you could hint at something. Whether it's maybe he has something on his hands.
Yeah, maybe they thought that was too risky. I don't know.
Well, I mean, this is risky to begin with. Also, he has a shiny thing on his leg.
It does. He does have a cardboard box behind him. Could be in that.
No.
Move 2 is like the size of a fucking lamp.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's me being an egg and Nancy.
CNET released a list.
I remember them. I used to read them all the time.
They're cool.
I don't do it anymore.
They released a list of 35 VR experiences that you must play, and these are across the board. These are not just PSVR. These are just all types of VR experiences. And most notably, they came out with a sentence which a lot of people were kind of like torn about. I'll read it. Resident Evil 7, the only true AAA big budget video game you can play entirely in VR, is the sort of the tagline that they have with that. So basically they came out and said that they think that Resident Evil 7 is the only game that is truly a AAA experience in VR. Agree or disagree?
I partially agree. I can see why they said it, because the probably the big argument is Farpoint.
Yeah.
That's the big one that's going to come back, and to me, is Farpoint the same as Resident Evil? It's a nice experience.
Enough of it to fully judge it. I know it's shorter.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's not saying. But there's AAA games that are 4 or 5 hours. That doesn't have any bearing.
Does it have the amount of content in it like Resident Evil? That kind of like. There's so much stuff.
Difficult.
There's so much stuff that Resident Evil has, and it does well. and is supporting it that none of the other games have.
I will say the fact that Farpoint is VR only maybe works against it in the AAA terms, because Resident Evil 7 is a AAA game flat.
Yeah.
So if you can play a AAA game flat in VR, that's kind of default that it's AAA, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I can see how they said this.
Blow my fucking head off.
But I think Farpoint's the big argument from everybody. But I can understand why CNET is like, well, it's not actually a AAA game. It was mind-blowing to you. I think I was more blown away by the move than I was the game itself. The game was pretty. Don't get me wrong. The game was pretty. The game was awesome, and I enjoyed my time until the spider jumped in my face. But, like, is that on par with the Halo? Because that's what you're going to compare it to. That's what Halo is. Does that have the same effect as a Halo? And I've not finished it, obviously.
Yeah.
All I played is what I played for this channel.
It does get a little repetitive from what I understand, but I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough call. I would say it's borderline AAA. Definitely AA. At least definitely AA, but borderline AAA for Farpoint. But I just thought it was interesting, and I actually want to know what you guys think about that one. Do you think that Resident Evil 7 is the only true AAA experience to be released on VR on any platform? Remember, this isn't just PSVR. So that was the only one that they came up with at CNET, and I just thought it was kind of worth bringing up. So here's some positive news in the world of VR. Everyone shits on it all the time, and I'm kind of fed up with it. So we're going to stay positive here on Codename Morpheus.
No, I'm going to shit on it. Don't worry.
Some good news. Keegan will find a way to
I'll get your hype brought back down to earth.
So London Studios, who's the team behind, you may remember London Heist and the VR Worlds Play disc in general, are giving a keynote on VR development right now. I believe they're doing a special developer keynote in London about basically like how to make VR games and what they've learned and that kind of stuff. So they're doing a seminar essentially on VR creation. And I thought that was a good positive sign for not only the fact that that's something that's trying to help more indie developers and lower tier developers to understand some of the processes and things that they use to come up with something that was as beautiful as London Heist. But also just nice to see that as like a thing that you hear about, a keynote speech all about how to develop in VR by one of the biggest names in VR. What do you think?
You ready for my devil's advocate side of this thing?
Go ahead, asshole.
So my only devil's advocate argument to this is a Sony studio. Clearly Sony's the manufacturer of the unit. They're doing this to get more people to make software, which is great.
But is that not a sign of support?
No, it's a sign of Sony saying, hey, we need support. Well, if you look at it that way, we're like, that's devil's advocate to this.
Okay, that's fine.
That's devil's advocate to this.
But
my thought is this is really cool. I like that this exists. I think it, like you said, it does say it, because the biggest barrier to entry to VR is it takes a lot of time and money to understand how it works. And if you can get a shortcut to figure that out, that's fine.
By a team that has pretty much figured it out.
Yeah, my like I said, the fact that it's a Sony studio is the only thing that I'm kind of like.
So if it was a non-Sony studio,
yeah, if they'd gotten somebody,
Capcom.
Yeah, if they gotten somebody from Capcom, if they gotten something, because then I feel like it's less likely that Sony has a vested interest in it, and it's just like, hey, we want to show you stuff.
I'll take that. I won't be mad about that. That's fine.
Yeah, you can't be mad about my opinion. I mean, you can be, but
I won't. But
I'm really good at. I feel like you're the positive one. I'm the negative one in this, but I got to bring it back down. It's
a weird feeling.
I don't know. I like VR. I enjoy VR. Like I said earlier, there's just not an experience right now that's got me excited. So that's kind of, I'm in that rut where I'm like, well,
waiting for something. The next big
I need
thing.
something to get me excited again. These little experiences
like that
are fun.
Cool Painter VR. I think.
Yeah, there's a couple things that are coming that I was like, that looks interesting, but I don't know if it's gonna grip me. Yeah.
So speaking of positive movements for VR, and speaking of also Farpoint, Farpoint has recently put out the bat signal for more people to hire.
You missed a really good opportunity for transition. If you'd put that one before the London one, you could transition beautifully.
I was thinking about that.
I know.
Probably. I was tired when I put it together. So they're looking for a senior animator, a senior environment artist, a senior VFX artist, a senior 3D character artist, a senior weapons artist, a world builder, and an engine programmer.
That's a lot of seniors.
I think there was a few other ones in there that may have been taken up, because I swear there was more when I read that yesterday.
It's a lot of seniors.
But I mean, you have Impulse Gear, who are one of the bigger names now associated with VR after the success of Farpoint, that are doing so well apparently that they can hire on like 10 more people to the project.
14.
Which I assume, well, yeah, it was 14. Like I said, 14 originally. It looks like they may have filled some, or
took them away. Who knows?
But or that. But what does that mean? Does that mean, do you think that they're working on something even more crazy than Farpoint? Do you think it means they're doubling down on Farpoint? Like, why would they be hiring all these people? Did people leave?
like I made the comment, senior kind of scares me.
Why? It doesn't mean old person.
No, but it means
you
somebody
have to be over 85 to
No, but a senior is somebody who's in charge of something.
Right.
So the fact that they were all higher positions up in the company, it means one of two things. One, it means they are now in the place where they can have a senior position and want somebody to come in and actually run the business. Or two, it means people left and they need somebody the more
fill the gaps.
Yeah, they need to fill that up. So those are the two trains of thought that I've got. It's exciting because obviously if you're hiring more people, you've made money.
Yeah.
I'm always the business guy. I'm always like from a business standpoint, as long as you're not going to massive amounts of debt, this makes sense. That because Farpoint sold really well.
I initially was excited by this news. I thought that means that this company is doing well. They're doubling down, and they're going to make something that's twice as.
Do you know how big they are? Their team was before
Not
this.
No.
Okay.
I assume it wasn't large.
Because that would be interesting to see what percentage they grew.
I don't remember if Impulse Gear made anything before Farpoint is my problem. If they did, I don't think it was VR. I think it was something else.
Yeah, something smaller.
But exciting.
But yeah, I like I said, it's one of those things where clearly if you're hiring people, you've made the money, and
right.
Farpoint sold well. But the positions, devil's advocate, the positions are what kind of make me go, hold up. But I haven't heard about anybody leaving, so that's where it's kind of like, okay, maybe it's not a thing.
There's been no news that said like half of Impulse Gear left.
Is gone.
So we can assume that it's probably positive. So
yes.
We'll move on.
Yep.
4 new titles coming to PSVR from Spain. They were announced on a Spanish thing. So PlayStation Spain has
PlayStation.
Spain has announced 4 new titles coming to PSVR through their program PlayStation Talents. Flippy's Tesla, a crazy virtual lab where you can let your imagination run free alongside Flippy, the game designer.
Dude, that sounds awesome.
Cool Painter VR, which we have showcased before. Paint and creation in VR. So this is kind of that one thing from
Google does
Harmonix or whatever. Yeah. That the easel thing that they loved from Harmonix. That's taking that, making it a separate game and giving it more stuff. Now this is the kind of stuff that VR was really made for. Yeah. I feel like this is like for artists. This might be.
There was Google has one, I think, for the Vive.
One, yeah.
And it was really fun. I played the demo of it, and I was like, oh, I can actually like move around this thing.
Yeah,
which is
you
really
can create
cool.
some fantastic pieces, and of course, then you can view them in VR, so it's kind of cool. Two-pronged sword. Intruders, hide and seek, let you experience firsthand an assault and kidnapping on your own house. That sounds great.
On your own house or in your own house?
It says on your own house. Those are the exact words from PlayStation Spain. So I don't know what that means exactly.
So
I don't know how
I'm going to guess you're kidnapped in your house. So one of the things I've always said, and again they mentioned it earlier with the physiological stuff, the psychological stuff in this instance, is this is terrifying.
I think it all depends, doesn't
it? The concept, if this is a first person, you're getting kidnapped, is terrible. Which you couldn't really do because you can't move with it.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what it looks like. If it's hyper realistic, this sucks. If it is just kind of like jokey, like Home Alone-y, then it would.
But I love the fact that even if this is hyper realistic, the fact that it is being made is cool because that means somebody's trying something new.
You know me, man. I'll do any crazy shit like that. So,
but I would love to see, like you said, if it's Home Alone-y, like could you imagine setting the traps of them coming in, like night trap style?
I mean, it is called Intruders Hide and Seek. It doesn't make it sound like the most kind of like brutal, like funny game style experience. And then lastly, a game called Mind Taker, which is a mystery game where you need to solve a crime, which is as much information as we got. So that's all there is to that. And I will say in the description below, you can find the complete link, but it is, of course, in Spanish.
Espanol.
So you may have to transfer that in Google Chrome or whatever it is that you do. Now here's a good one that I thought might be fun for us, because this sounds to me like Overwatch VR. Not Overwatch, Overcooked VR.
I was like, this definitely is an Overwatch.
Diner Duo is a local co-op VR cooking game, and it's only a couple weeks till it comes out. So yeah, it's Whirly Bird Games. So is the game done? We want more, is a common complaint about VR the Diner Duo. Here's our latest thing. And they showed like a picture of it and show that it's actually going to be out relatively soon. And they do hashtag PSVR Vive and Oculus in the tweet there. So that means that it should be coming to multiple platforms. But the idea of a local co-op, which I guess means, do you have
one in VR, one out of VR?
Oh, right. Okay, that makes more sense. I was going to be like, because you can't really hook up two to the same unit. So
one in VR, one out of VR.
Online would be cooler. But
it reminds me of like local co-op would be like Keep Talking Nobody Explodes.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting looking. I don't know if it has the charm or the fun factor of a game like Overcooked, but I mean, it's a VR diner game. It's just one of those things like, why not? If you can do it.
Or a job simulator when you are the chef. Like, I want to know, based on the art, I can't tell how serious it takes itself.
Right.
It's kind of cartoony.
Yeah.
But that could just be the art aesthetic they went with. So I'm interested to see, because I really, do you remember Diner Dash back in the day?
I do.
Love Diner Dash.
Yeah.
I would love Diner Dash in VR. How it would work would be interesting. My vision of what this is you get an order, you pull the ticket, you have to make X, Y, and Z, and maybe person who's out. I'm trying to figure out what the person outside of VR would be doing, but maybe the person outside of VR would be grabbing ingredients for you or something.
I would feel like
the food.
The VR person would be doing more of the grabbing, and the other guy would be more of like you'd be like, they'd be the chef, you'd be like the sous chef or something.
Or you are the chef in VR, and the person outside of VR is the waiter, has to tell you what you need.
Maybe.
So maybe that would be it. So like, I get an order from the customer, and I need scrambled eggs with onions and red peppers, and you gotta tell me how many or any sort of adjustments. I don't know if they do numbers like how many eggs are or how many of this.
I think a lot of it's going to be also based upon how the moves control with it. I'm assuming it's move based, because I think it'd be really hard to do that.
It's using Oculus Touch, so I'm assuming they'd use moves.
So I'm assuming it's move based, but I wonder how hard it is to like pick up things and mix them together and like get the salad bowl going and all that kind of stuff. But it looks cool though, either way.
You just shake it.
So a couple quick ones for you. Light Tracer is getting a PSVR release on September 26th. You can see the trailer for Light Tracer behind me, just interesting looking title. There's also Cubion, which is a tabletop game. It's I don't think it's like necessarily like Dungeons and Dragons style. I think it's more like what is it, Knights of Catan or whatever, or something like that. But it's a tabletop game, and again, it's coming to PSVR relatively soon. Trailer is in the description below and briefly behind me. And RE0, Life in Another World in VR, which is the stupidest fucking title for a VR game. That's the whole title. I'll say it one more time. RE0, Life in Another World in VR is the whole title, and that's coming to PSVR 2. That's coming, obviously, from Japan. Why else would it be anywhere? Now, past the quickies there, we are on to some more interesting news, which I thought we could talk about. Number one is the one that you almost let loose earlier, and that is that I Expect You to Die officially passed the $1 million revenue mark.
Do you know that they didn't make money on that, though?
They didn't make money
They did not make a profit.
How'd that work?
Because they had more expenses than income.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So the fact that they made $1 million in revenue is amazing. That's awesome. But the fact that they did not make a profit on it is the scary part. Because again, my business brain is like, well, because revenue, those of you who don't know, revenue is just the amount of money you bring in. So the way business works, I don't want to talk too down to a lot of you, but some of you may not know this, is revenue is money generated, then you have your expenses. So whether that's R&D, packaging, marketing, whatever it may be, you take that out, and that's your profit. So if you make $1 million, but you spend $1.5 million, you're negative $500,000. So that's the scary part to me, is the fact that I did not make money on this game.
Would you not argue to an extent, though, that you have to spend money to make money?
Yeah, but if you spend too much money, you have no more business.
That's true.
So,
but I think it's a good sign. I think it's a good start. And remember, it's only just hit this mark, so it means it's still selling. But yeah, I think it's great that they're making a revenue of that high an amount. It is a shame that they're not really pocketing much of it, if any. But yeah, I thought it was just cool that there was a game like that was doing so well at this point in time. And that's been out for a while for PSVR, but it's one of those sort of creeper games where you kind of might have missed it when it first came around, and then like a little later it shows up in a sale or something, or one of your friends says you should try it, and then you actually get into it. And it's a really good game. It's a really solid game, and they're still producing DLC updates and stuff. There's supposed to be a DLC coming relatively soon for that title.
Yeah, it's a really good game. I just, again, from a short term, that's awesome. Long term, longevity, you're always concerned. But also, the thing I will say though, the beginning of all this VR cycle, and I've said it, this is why I complain about a lot of things, is Sony's easily kicking money in to these developers to make these games. It'd be dumb if they didn't, because they got to get them on board somehow, knowing the install base is not as large. Why would I spend my time and money doing this when I know I have a bigger install base here, potentially get more people? So Sony might have eaten up the rest of the cost and leveled it out.
I feel like a lot of what happens in VR, honestly, is that a lot of the developers for VR are like the dreamers for VR. They're like the people that really love it and play it all the time.
Yeah, but dreaming doesn't pay bills.
I know, but it's not so much a case of like There's some people out there that just want to make a VR game because they think it would be cool, and that's okay. Like,
Yeah.
they don't have to be trying to make $1 million trillion every time you release a game. I think some people just respect the art form and just, and go for it. And this now puts that company as a revenue maker, even though they're, maybe not making profit heavily, but also as a game, having a game under their belt that is a solid, sturdy VR game, which means that they can work on something else which will be equally as solid, equally as sturdy, if not more, and have this kind of, from the people that brought you, I expect you to die, which is an instant advert for them. So then that potentially helps revenue change.
So I'm gonna read this quote. This is from Upload VR. Speaking of Upload VR, Shell Games, who's I Expect You to Die, creator, developer, CEO Jesse Shell, surprise, Shell Games, Jesse Shell, said the company was very pleased with what the game has earned so far. While not confirming exactly how profitable it has been, Shell did say the revenue was helping to fund new VR projects. The game was built by a team of around 20 developers. So they are putting the money back in. He won't say how profitable they are, but it sounds like part of it too is I don't know if Sony will allow them. I don't know the business end or if they want to. Like it's nobody's business how much profit your business makes unless you're a public company. Nobody has to disclose that other than you have to disclose it to the government. That's about it. So that's interesting, but it says they're putting that money towards another VR game.
That's cool.
Which is good. That's a good place to put it. I hope that they don't bite off more than they can chew. That this game did well. Cool, build upon it. We were talking last week on Indie Please Details, the Kickstarter thing where
getting too greedy,
getting too big for the money you've got. So
makes sense.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm excited they're investing in more games.
Cool.
That's a cool thing because I Expect You to Die was an awesome game. Go pick it up if you don't have it yet.
And lastly, Sony announces the SRS-WS1. Say that 10 times backwards. The shoulder speakers for Japan. I assume we're going to get them at some point, but let's talk about it. So
let's talk about that.
According
That's a Rhett and Link reference.
to Jin115, Sony.
Oh,
Sorry,
Tom's dying.
You made me laugh.
Tom's dying.
Sony just announced shoulder speakers that will make you feel wrapped up in sound. The product is labeled SRS-WS1 and will come at the price of 25,000 yen or $225.
God, yen sounds so much more expensive.
The speaker section trembles with the bass. Vibration will have 3 settings, strong, medium, and weak, and medium settings will allocate 80 hertz or less to vibration. The technology should go well with the VR headset and provide a full surround sound experience to the player. It consists of a speaker section, a transmitter, and a charging stand. The speaker has a full range unit of 30 millimeters in diameter, giving a feeling of being wrapped by a slit structure that distributes the sound to the ear and a diffuser that adjusts the direction of the sound. So this is like, I assume this is instead of headphones, but I
was like, headphones is the best way because you have the 3D sound.
I think so too, but I think there would be something cool to be said for having like this shoulder strap that can play sounds actually behind you, and because like the headphones, it's like an artificial behind you, but having it actually play behind you would be really weird.
But how did it in front of you?
I don't know. I mean, it's a shoulder wrap, so it goes around most of your neck, but it's just kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah.
I think it's a push that they're sort of saying that this is for VR usage.
Yeah.
I like the idea. I mean,
the other thing is you have to keep the headset back here. How big is this thing when it like is it thick? Like you'll hit your headset, that kind of thing. Keep in mind. I do
some weight there.
I do want to go back to Shell. So the quote said that not that they didn't make money, but they didn't announce how profitable it was. So they might have made money. I'm gonna before the comments because I'm sure the comments will be like, well, they fucking actually said this. That's I want to clarify that.
Fast keyboard traction.
But yeah, no, I mean I still stand behind what I said.
Okay.
Because I didn't say. But no, these shoulder speakers like
they look cool.
Interesting concept, but
they look fine.
But like I don't know. I still think headphones are going to be the best way to play VR because you get completely
I would always rather headphones.
The only reason I think something like this could or should exist is obviously I live alone, so I don't have to worry about anybody else being in my house. But you could hear like you have a wife, door and stuff like that, or like somebody needs you. Like most people play video games, have a family of some sort, or live with somebody that they don't want to completely get out of the real world.
VR will like
But
seriously
you can't,
fucking isolate you really quickly.
I mean, Star Trek VR, I've talked about where I've looked up and it went from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. I was like, what the hell happened?
My dogs get me when I'm in VR. Like they'll be by me and I'll be looking around or something crazy, and then like they think I'm trying to get their attention, and then they'll just jump on you. I'm like, holy shit, I can't see anything. That's especially in a game like Resident Evil. Let me tell you, that's not a fun experience.
Eminem called that snap back to reality. Oh, there goes grabbing.
Yeah. All right, so that's your news roundup for this week. So moving on to the spotlights, and I kind of got two again. I know I'm being greedy this week with the.
Don't run out of them for next week.
Oh, it's okay. I got Solace coming next week.
That's true.
But so I'm talking about two of them because I've had short experiences with both. One I enjoyed way more than the other, but I did enjoy them both a lot. So the first one, and the one that I'll be quickest with, is Manifest 99.
I always want to say Manifest Destiny whenever I see that word.
Manifest 99 is not really much of a game per se. It is an experience that you control entirely with your head by looking at things. So the complete experience that I played through, by the way, is available on our channel, and you can just look up Manifest 99 complete experience. I almost said Destiny. And,
see? It's so hard to not say Manifest Destiny.
But yeah, so basically...
Also, because I'm playing Destiny.
You die, and then you end up on this train to the afterlife where there are 4 animal, sort of humanoid animal things that you have to sort of learn their stories. And the train is falling apart. The back of it is just like this. Entire carriages are just getting destroyed for no reason. So the only way that you can move is through the eyes of crows. I know this sounds really weird already.
Sounds like Dumbo.
It's very bizarre.
I like the trailer.
The trailer's beautiful, and the art style and the aesthetic is gorgeous, and it's $6-7, so it's really worth it. I think this is why I'm doing it first, because it's a short experience. So you look, and you have to actually match like eye to eye with a crow, and then you become the crow, and then you look around the room, and then you find another crow, and you become that crow, and that's how you travel.
Did you ever play fuck, what was it was the remake of an old game that they put into VR with Rhombus. Psychonauts.
Rhombus Ruins?
Yeah, did you ever play Psychonauts? So that's how that worked, is you would teleport from, there's 4 people in the room, and you just teleport from one person's perspective to another.
Yeah.
Which worked really well in that case because you're solving a crime.
Yeah.
So it does, that to me is when teleportation is done right, when it makes sense like that.
It was half laid back and half not, though, because like with a game like Rhombus Ruin, I don't think you necessarily have to like get out of your seat and turn all the way around all that often.
There was a couple times you had to look
like
behind you
a little bit, right?
But that was about it.
But this game actually had me like getting up, which is like I kind of hated.
Tom doesn't get up, guys.
I don't get up good. But like again, this is one of the games that the dogs were attacking me on, because I'm looking at this crow and I'm like looking around for another crow and I can't see it, and I have to like get up and physically turn around the other way to see this crow. And then the idea was
clearly play VR 2 different. I always stand when I play VR.
No, I
very rarely sit unless the game requires me to sit.
I only stand up if it's like a game where I'm going to be doing stuff like this.
Oh, so Fruit Ninja.
Yeah, Fruit Ninja.
I only sit if I'm in a chair like Star Trek. I'll sit in a chair. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so the idea is that you follow these crow's eyes until you find a bigger creature. They are everything from like a weird Russian bear to
we had a Russian teddy bear, and now we got
another Russian bear. I assume he's Russian, and then also like this weird like bunny rabbit thing and like kind of like a
is there sentient corn
penguin owl thing. There's no sentient.
It's actually in the same universe as Maze.
But you have to stare at them in the eyes, and then you
how terrifying is that?
Learn their story. Less terrifying.
Like
than
is it like eyeballs, or are they just black holes?
They're white holes that have like a mist coming from them, but as you stare, the white like covers their body.
Gotcha.
So really quickly, like they just disappear.
So it's not like a horror looking thing. Okay.
No,
staring something in the eyeballs too long.
This is not something that would scare you as a viewer. It's just a really bizarre story, but and it's about the afterlife and animals, so of course it is. But there is like one character that like doesn't want you to do it, so he'll run away and then he'll hide, and then you have to use the crows to get closer to him, and then you have to try and find him. He'll be like lying down asleep here. You try and look at him, and he'll go, oh, and then he'll run away again. So there is like a little element of gameplay to it, but largely you're just looking at shit, which is fine for an experience. It's fine. It works well, and the tale that is told is interesting enough. The ending was so-so. I don't think I'm satisfied necessarily with it. But as far as experiences go, if you like indie, if you like that art style, that aesthetic, and you want just kind of a relatively passive VR experience, Manifest 99 is a good choice. And secondly, the game that I really enjoyed and I really want you to get actually was Bloody Zombies, which is a game that we talked about a little bit last week.
It's an English game.
It is an English game where you are basically doing sort of a Streets of Rage style stomp through various, locale, fighting the bad guys. And honestly, there was so much in the way of homages to Streets of Rage. It was ridiculous. Like, they even had the girls come out with the whips, and like it was the guy with a knife that charges you. So many homages to Streets of Rage. The annoying part when I filmed it was that I played it in VR, which was incredible. The sense of depth and everything was beautiful, but it recorded in flat, which pissed me off because I wanted to actually showcase what it looks like to play in this 3D realm.
I wonder if there's a setting in share screen then.
I don't think so. I don't know.
Because that's usually like with something like that, that's so the person, like, if somebody's sitting next to you, they can watch the same thing you're doing. Because the problem with VR is obviously when you're in VR and you're controlling it, it's a different ballgame. Like Dick Wilde did the same thing, where Dick Wilde, it wasn't your perspective, it was a TV perspective. Yeah,
I think that's kind of what they were going for, which is fine if you're sat in a room watching, but if you're trying to show people that watch a YouTube channel what it looks like in VR, that kind of sucks. So I don't think I ever really.
Could you capture it straight from the PlayStation?
Oh, I did.
You probably could capture it straight from the PlayStation.
I don't know.
Without Elgato, that might work. This is behind the scenes thing, but that might be a thing.
But it was cool, man. I really liked it. I like those sort of 2.5D brawlers in 3D. Definitely massive elements brought into it. Very exciting. The fighting, combat, and everything is great. It's just pretty standard stuff. You can like grab people and throw them, and like disarm people, use weapons. It's Streets of Rage in 3D with a unique artsy style.
Would you call it artsy fartsy?
British tinged.
Is it artsy fartsy?
Not artsy fartsy,
just artsy.
Artsy smartsy. So yeah, really enjoyable. Honestly, like for the price tag and everything, I think it was like 15.
Yes, do you remember?
Super enjoyable. It would be amazing in multiplayer. That's why I want you to pick it up because I think it would be a really good time. But the humor is really good. The story is really good. The level designs are great. Just everything about it I really enjoyed. So highly recommend Bloody Zombies, especially for the price tag. If you were ever a fan of like Final Fight or Streets of Rage or the Turtles arcade game, the Simpsons arcade game, you know the types of games that I'm talking about, then definitely.
You know what I find really interesting? I'm gonna the reviews on Steam are super low.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why.
3.5 on PlayStation.
Really solid game.
3.5 on PlayStation. Maybe this just didn't know what to expect. $15. Yeah.
Remember that's also an optional mode, so they're also rating the normal one there alongside VR.
Yep.
But the VR version
supports up to 4. Really this is why. So it supports up to 4 players, local and online, with a combination of VR and TV players.
Yeah.
So that could be.
But yeah, if you dig it, get it. It's as simple as that. It's a really good time. So I highly recommend it. And I really want you to play. I just think, even if you don't we don't do it multiplayer or whatever, I would say you should try it.
To try it?
Yeah. So here's the last question for Codename Morpheus.
For today. We'll be back next week.
We will be back,
Do this every week, so if you want to come back next week, or if you missed a week, you can go back and watch the playlist. There's a whole list of them.
So I'm going to force you to be positive, motherfucker.
I saw that in your question, and I was like, well, here we go.
I knew this would get him. My question is, what's your argument to convince VR non-believers? So people that look at VR like you look at VR, and
I like VR. I'm just fucking
with you.
Before we get into this, I feel like I gotta make this point here.
Floor is yours.
I like VR. I think VR is awesome. I love my experience, and I'll answer this question eventually. But I feel like we also do, when we do these shows, we need to have both sides of the argument. So I tell you a lot of times, and it's interesting because a lot of times you can tell when the argument's my actual argument because I get more passionate about it versus me just bringing up the other side of the argument.
You do play devil's advocate, which I like. Yeah. I think that you like that he is kind of a little bit like, well, yeah, but
I play the Scrooge a lot because I don't want to be. VR is not all sunshines and rainbows. There is some shit show.
There is definitely fanboys and there's definitely like naysayers, and I feel
like I'm in the middle somewhere.
A good mixture. Yeah.
But anyways, I feel like I had to say that.
Yeah. What's your argument to convince a VR non-believer as to why they should invest in VR?
Because it is a new way to play video games. If you play video games and you complain that every game is the exact same, which has been my argument for a long, long time, is every game that we play now we could play on the PS2. this is a great way to play it, and a level of immersion that you get. And this is the way I look at VR is it's letting me do something I would not be able to do normally. And video games are a fun entertainment medium. You can get lost, and I use that term loosely, in video games when it comes to like hours drained. But I've never in a flat game, as you call them, lost concept of time and space. VR you do because you're literally enclosed off, and it doesn't happen as much anymore, but the getting out of VR moments, like when I play VR at home, I turn my lights off just because I don't think it affects tracking, but it could.
Apparently it does, but I do it too, just because I don't like light leakage in the nose part.
So I'm the same way. So I turn it off, but then when I take my headset off, because you're in this bright, like Star Trek's the one I'm playing more and more. When you're in this bright environment, you take it off, you're like, oh yeah, I'm in my apartment. Like the fact that I thought for the longest time, you're not in a spaceship, you know that, but your brain tricks you to thinking you're in that world. So I would say if you're a gamer, the fact that you can do something in a new way, have a new way of playing games. To somebody who like mainstream, because that's always been my argument, playing devil's advocate to my devil's advocate. My argument's always been you have to be for mainstream, you have to be things outside video games. And watching a 3D movie in VR is, my opinion, right now the best way to do it.
There's still a ton of people that don't know you can do that. I learned that the other day.
The reason I like that, you know the reason I like that?
Because you don't have to wear glasses?
Well, no, I don't care. Well, you're wearing goggles, so the same fucking thing. The reason I like it is because when you watch a 3D movie in the movie theaters, you're on a giant-ass screen. When you watch it, do you have a 3D TV?
I do.
Do you watch 3D movies on it?
Not often.
To me, it feels like when I'm watching them at home, for reference, I have a 50-inch TV, 3D, Panasonic ST50 or ST60. 50-inch.
You remember that?
Because it won TV of the Year. I had a lot of awards, and I did a lot of research into it. It's the last Panasonic plasma.
Picked up a cheap Vizio from Walmart.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, this is different between me and you there.
Yeah.
But when I watch 3D movies at home, I feel like I'm looking into a window, and I'm looking into a portal.
Like a depth.
Yeah. Versus when I watch it in VR, I'm still looking into a portal, but that is more. It's surrounding me more. It's bigger, and it's more immersive. So that would be somebody I would say who's not a gamer to get into that. The other thing would be escapism.
Yeah.
So if you, I don't want to get too dark, but if you have some sort of thing you're trying to run away from, you can use it to get away from that thing for a little bit and be like, I don't want to be here right now. I want to go on a beach. Take me to the beach. And you could do that. You could do, like I said, you can do things you didn't think you could do. Going down and getting attacked by a shark. You don't want to do that in real life.
It's true.
That's something you prefer not to do.
I definitely would not like to do that in real life.
But you gives you the opportunity in VR. And I also think the fact that VR is going to become, on the social platform, is going to become more and more prevalent. I think AR, from a phone perspective, like Apple's been pushing AR, I think AR will be the bigger thing for that, but VR is also going to be here to stay. I want to see it go mainstream. I want to see it be super successful. I want to see it become ubiquitous.
I mean, this is a good word, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This is the furthest it's ever gotten in mainstream culture.
Yes, and that's my. I was watching a video earlier. I don't know if you're listening to it, but it's what happened to VR.
Oh yeah.
From GameRanks, they just released it as a recording earlier today, but it was a couple days ago. When you guys are watching this, and I highly recommend you go watch it because it brings back of things that have happened in the past. So you had old VR headsets back in the day that were just big and clunky. You had and they're expensive, or you had the Virtual Boy. You had these things, and they're like, we admit that this is the cheapest headset right now that you can get VR for. I still think, my opinion, it's too expensive for the average consumer, but as we know, with all technology, everything drops in price, and at some point it will become cheaper to become more accessible, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's getting there. But that video brought up a few good points that I kind of agreed with, but other things I was like, no, you're wrong here. Like, I can't remember. There's one where I was like, no, I don't agree with that at all. So
I think a lot of what the future of VR continges on is the fact that when the PlayStation first came out, for example, the very first PlayStation, right, that was a game console, and it also could play CDs.
And it became a media player.
Yeah,
I mean, the PlayStation 2 is the #1 selling console because it could play DVDs. It's not because the PlayStation 2 is the best video game console out there.
It just happened to do both.
It was the cheapest.
And music too.
It was the cheapest DVD player you could buy at the time.
Also,
Saddam Hussein.
Blu-ray player that you could get at the time. So the idea
for $599
dropped a little bit after a while, but even that was still cheaper than what the Blu-ray players were on the market.
And now it's like you can get one for like 60.
Yeah. So like I think the thing about the console side of it is that they always gave you something else.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, the VR experience itself is already a subsection of what's out there as far as games are concerned,
and it has to be attached to something,
right? But and you do have to have the previously existing thing, which is not the worst thing in the world. I mean,
but it's
phone,
just,
you can get like,
but that also prices. Yeah, but your pricing there when you get a phone, you're paying $1,000. The case is $60 tops. You can go to $100 versus if you're buying a $1,000 to $400 unit to then buy another $400.
That's true.
That's where I think so. My argument back was to when it comes to pricing is, if it gets like $200 to $500 for a VR unit, that's to me the sweet spot that everybody will start jumping in. I think right now it's too expensive.
Well, we're still in the early days, and I think that like if you look at 4K TVs right now, like 4K TVs are becoming increasingly more affordable.
Look at 4K TVs just in the last like 6 months.
Well, yeah,
it's crazy.
There was a time when that was completely out of everyone's budget.
$25,000,
and now they've dropped so much because 4K, as you so succinctly put, has become ubiquitous with the way that media is going. You have like Netflix now on the 4K train.
Hulu's been there.
Apple
YouTube's been there.
Their new Apple TV 4K.
Roku's got 4K.
Hulu's been doing it. Like, all these guys have been doing it. So you're at a point now where 4K is reaching critical mass, and it's to the point where like everyone's next TV is going to be a 4K TV. But VR being a unique beast in and of itself, you have to focus on the stuff it can give you that the other stuff can't. Why would you get a 4K TV? Because of the pixel density and the high definition range of all the colors and lights.
HDR is more exciting to me than 4K.
And that's what most people say. So why do you get a VR? Well, because it will give you an experience that you will never ever have anywhere else.
It's the best way to experience something. VR is not perfect. From a long shot, it's not perfect. But it's getting there. And it's getting there. Like you said, price holds it back quite a lot. Developers hold it back a lot. Not because they're not trying. It's because they can't.
They really are.
It's the money.
That they're struggling to make profit off of it. But in general, like the immersion level, like I knew the second that I put on Resident Evil 7, the demo, even before I even got to the full game, just the demo, when they released the VR update for the demo, I knew that I was never going to get that experience anywhere else. And that was the first moment that I knew, like, even playing the Shark games and London Heist and stuff, that was incredible. Like, the sense of immersion was incredible. But playing Resident Evil like that, like a familiar title, in a normal like FPS setting that just happened to put you in this crazy immersive world, was just mind-blowing to me. And ever since that point, I've been a gigantic advocate for it, as you know.
Yes.
But I think that that's kind of the argument, isn't it? And that's the thing, is I can't tell you what that feels like. I would love to be able to explain to you what going through Resident Evil looks like in VR, but you won't do it because you're nervous, and understandably so.
Don't do spooky.
But it's one of those things.
Which just sucks, because I wish I had a Resident Evil experience for me. I mean, Farpoint was similar, but I still don't think it's
just
level.
You will get there. There'll be something, but just. The part and parcel of what made that so good was the dread, and it was the fact that the atmosphere is what sold it. So, being in this house, feeling your heart racing, like being terrified to turn around a corner, that stuff is what sold the game, and that's not going to be on every VR game. In fact, most VR games are pretty novel, I would say, in the long term. But when they do focus down and knuckle down and make something like that, I mean, I'm hoping things like GT raise the bar a little bit for like the driving side of it, like if the graphics are pretty enough and stuff. Dirt Rally was a really good experience in VR. That was another one that was like, okay, that's pretty fucking immersive, and you feel the rumble and everything on the wheel if you have the wheel.
The only weird part of Dirt Rally is when you just popped into your car and you're like, I guess I'm here.
Yeah, it wasn't set up very well.
The transition wasn't good, but the game, once you're in the VR mode, you're like, that's enjoyable. That is the best way to play. I sound like Xbox right now. This is the best way to play. Best place to play is PSVR if you can do it. No, And I made the argument, I think it was last week, was Lost Bear, right? Was last week? I can't remember.
You said you didn't see what
I
VR
didn't understand.
added.
I didn't understand why it should be in VR. That's kind of where, when it comes to like why should I get VR, the developers or whoever's making the content for VR has to convince me to convince somebody else. But I don't say I'm easier to convince because I'm excited about the technology versus a skeptic. Because clearly when it launched, when it came out, I was all about doing it, and I still won't forget sitting in Best Buy with the demo with David doing was it Ocean Descent? I think was the name of it, right? Doing Ocean Descent, and physically in this chair, moving my legs up to my chest, screaming because that's the first time being attacked by a shark, and I feel like now I'm starting to get jaded because I know what to expect.
Yeah.
But like that was so just like, holy crap, I've never had that reaction to a video game before.
I'm still getting those experiences based upon what's coming out, though. And that's the thing, is like, I definitely am jaded to that particular experience now because I've done it so many times. But then, for example, the first time we turned on Trackmania Turbo, and I'd never done that in VR, and I didn't have any idea what to do. And then you went around like a loop-de-loop or whatever. I was like, holy shit. And it was just kind of this moment of, wow, I didn't know I could do that in VR, what that would feel like. And now I know what it feels like. That was kind of cool. I like that. So there's definitely like those moments when they come out with something that really like redefines an idea that you had of how to play a certain game or what a certain game would feel like. It's just that they are currently few and far between. But it really is a case of not being able to explain it, not being able to say you should do it because it's good. Like, you can't explain VR. You just have to do it.
We have two different reasons why we like VR.
Yeah.
You like it because you from day one you've been a first person immersive guy. Like, I love this.
I want to feel like I'm in the world.
I have a mixture of both. The first person immersion that I love is the Star Trek Bridge Crew. Like, that one is probably my favorite VR game that exists.
So that's not like an FPS, that's just like an FPS simulator.
Well, it's a first-person perspective.
Shooter, it's a simulator.
Yeah. So I'm yelling commands, all that kind of stuff. But I also love, because I look at VR, at least with PSVR specifically, because it's connected to my gaming console, I look at it with, like, you know how much I like Marvels, because that reminded me of playing this game, playing like Mario 64 back in the day, or one of those 3 platformers, and I love that kind of aspect of it, because it's like, oh, I'm not really doing anything different, but I'm in the world. And the more and more that happens, and I want to see games that play with that. Like, we've talked about it before. One of the things I think would put VR over a tipping point for a lot of people is, we just talked about, is live events, whether they're actually live and or taped and replayed in VR. Going to the Super Bowl. That is a lot of people's dream, to go to a Super Bowl.
And these are all in the works.
You
like
know how expensive that is to go to the Super Bowl? Like,
I can imagine.
That kind of stuff. So you have a lot of things there when it comes to coming to camera placement, coming to latency, all that kind of stuff that you got to figure out. But that would be so cool, and I think that's the step, because if you take the population as a whole, VR is pretty much gaming at this point for the majority. There are like
that's its major design.
Yeah, and you look at gear, like
they made it to make games.
Yeah,
the Rift was made for games.
I don't want to like say gear doesn't exist, because gear does exist, but that's a mobile, and I don't look at it quite the same because you can't do the same experience. But once it gets out, I keep saying, once it gets outside that game, once somebody outside of video games has that one thing that goes, hey, did you see this? And it'll go from, hey, did you hear about this new game, to, did you hear what VR can do? And that's like when we got the story a few months ago from our buddy Tigrado that talked about the people that were using VR to learn how to walk. Learn how to walk again. And that is crazy. So it's things like that. So to answer the question,
think the tipping point will be something that's not game related?
Yes.
You are happy with the game related stuff?
Yes. Cool. I am satisfied.
All right,
that's about as good as you're going to get from me.
What would be your argument to convince a non-believer, or are you a non-believer? If you are, why are you here? But seriously, let us know.
They're intrigued.
What is it that's kind of making you hold back from picking up a system, or are you doing research before you eventually make the buy? There's a lot of people that make that jump, and a lot of people that do just let it collect dust after a couple weeks, and some people that continue.
I mean, I haven't put my headset on for. I mean, granted, I've had Destiny and Elder Scrolls and Overwatch happening, but I've not put my headset on probably for a month and a half.
I put it on every week at least.
Yeah, well, you got twice. It's because you record. I record this. I record indies, so that's like true. I'm always in the indie world.
Yeah,
when I'm not playing Destiny.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just thought it'd be fun to have kind of a positive thing about just sort of referring.
He wanted me to be happy.
The good parts about it. I like to avoid arguments. So that being said, that's Codename Morpheus episode 10. I hope you loved it. We do, of course, have footage for things like Manifest 99, like Bloody Zombies, all up on our channel that you can find in the no commentary gameplay footage section. Specifically, some of them are just tagged like VR. And you're free to watch any of the previous episodes. These usually are kind of time-bound, though, so the newest one is usually the best one.
And if you're listening to us, you can head over to level2gamers.com and see all those lovely things.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that the visual version of this is more interesting. Not that we don't love our listening audience, but we do put a little bit of extra flair into the YouTube videos. Therefore, when we're talking about a game or a subject or a question, you do actually get to see some of that going on behind us with our awesome virtual studios.
And if you're on YouTube, if you can give us a thumbs up, that helps a lot. Let us know what you guys liked, didn't like. And then same thing if you're listening. Rating us on iTunes, I've come to do some research, actually helps a lot.
Really?
As dumb as that. I mean, it's not dumb, but it helps a tremendous amount. So if you really do enjoy the show and you're back every week, we'd appreciate you if you took the 5 minutes to just write a review in there. And
we don't ask for much.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say.
So,
but thanks a lot for watching, guys.
And as always,
welcome to the second level.
Bye.
What the fuck was that?
It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level.